We've already had a look at quite a few creepy images on this channel, but there are some more that I'd like to show you. A small number of these images do look creepy by themselves, but most of them just look like ordinary photos. That is, until you add the disturbing backstory that all of them possess. For that reason, we're going to be taking a look at just that. So here are 20 terrifying pictures with disturbing backstories. Number 1 is the unexpected visitor. A man and his nephew visited the Grand Canyon in the late 70s. They took a picture which at first seemed to be an ordinary photo, but after they got it developed and had a closer look at it, they noticed that there was a person in the background who neither the uncle or the nephew knew. Not only this, but both the uncle and the nephew don't even remember seeing the man on the day. So the reasoning behind him standing in the bushes with his hood up and seemingly looking at the camera remains a mystery. Number 2 is shell-shocked. This picture was taken in September of 1916 during World War I. At first, it was believed that the soldier was making some kind of a funny face at the camera, but just wasn't doing a great job at making it look funny. However, it was later discovered that he was suffering from shell shock, which is a traumatic reaction some soldiers have in the midst of battle. This soldier was fighting in the trenches at the time, and was more than likely in a very mentally unstable place at the time this picture was taken. Number 3 is the unseen hiker. Sailor Williams and Brendan Vega took a hiking trip in 2015. It turned into a disaster and Sailor ended up fracturing her left leg and eventually breaking her ankle. Brendan Vega decided to go and try and get help, but his glasses had broke and it was the dead of night. And unfortunately, Brendan Vega fell to his death while he was looking for other people. This left Sailor Williams in a pretty terrible position. She was in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone service, and she couldn't move because of her injuries. It wasn't until the next day when a group of hikers were taking the same trail as Sailor and found her face down in a pile of mud. But it was the group's camera that found Sailor before them. They had taken some images a few hours before finding her, and Sailor could just about be seen in the background. Luckily, she recovered from her injuries and she is okay now. Number 4 is the Unfriendly Clown. This image appears to be a standard enough looking clown, but as a lot of you probably already know, the man behind the clown costume is a much more disturbing character. Because that is John Wayne Gacy, an American serial killer who murdered 33 people throughout the 70s. He often dressed up as a clown for parades and children's parties, which went on to give him the nickname, the Killer Clown. Number 5 is Home. This image might look like a child was given a piece of chalk and just went crazy, but it actually has a much more depressing backstory. This is Tereska, a young Polish girl who grew up in a concentration camp. After she was liberated, she went to an institution in Warsaw where she was asked to draw her home. This was the resulting image. Number 6 is the photographer's last picture. Robert Landsberg was a photographer who often went to the volcano Mount St. Helens in order to document its development. On May 18, 1980, he was doing just that, and he was only a few miles from the summit when the mountain exploded. Landsberg noticed that the ash cloud from the mountain was approaching him at a very quick pace. He realized running would not work and decided to spend his last few seconds on Earth doing what he did best. He pulled out his camera and started taking pictures of the explosion. Right after he had taken these pictures, he put the camera on the ground and threw his body over it in order to protect the images. 17 days later, Robert Landsberg's body was found. His tactics had worked, as the images were able to be developed. His pictures were given to geologists and turned out to be vital pieces of documentation about volcanic explosions. Number 7 is The Captive. In 1901, police received a letter that stated a woman was being held captive in her own house. They busted into the home, which was in France, and discovered that the letter was telling the truth. Blanche Monnier had been imprisoned by her own mother for 24 years. This is because she had been in a relationship with an older lawyer and her mother did not agree. So she locked Blanche in a tiny room until she agreed to never see him again. However, she never agreed and remained in that room for 2.5 decades until the police found her. When they did find her, they discovered that she was essentially living in her own filth. Not only this, but she also hadn't seen a speck of sunlight since her imprisonment, and her eyes were incredibly sensitive to any kind of brightness. After she was rescued, she was put into a psychiatric hospital because of how mentally unstable she was. She died there in 1913. Number 8 is the unknown victim. Dean Corll was an American serial killer who was also known as the Candyman. He is said to have murdered 28 people, but many believe that he might have killed more than that because of certain pieces of evidence. This is one of them. It is an image that Dean Corll took himself of a young boy that he had in captivity. People tried to find out the identity of the boy, but failed. This led many to believe that the Candyman had killed more people than he was blamed for. Number 9 is the warning. Two brothers and their sister were climbing California's Morro Rock in 1975. When they reached the peak, they noticed that their hair was standing up. They thought it was humorous at the time and decided to take a picture. What they didn't know is that hair standing up by itself can be a sign that lightning is coming. Unfortunately, this was the case for the three siblings, and while they made their way down the trail, the youngest brother, Sean, was struck by lightning. He was knocked unconscious and suffered third-degree burns to his back and elbows. This image has been used on a consistent basis to remind people to be wary of lightning strikes. Number 10 is the uninvited guest. A group of friends were having a party that was reasonably quiet and exclusive. It was an invite-only kind of shindig and everybody knew each other. Except maybe not though, because when the group decided to take a picture together, they noticed there was someone there who was not supposed to be, and this was the kid in the far right. He was not an invited guest and nobody knew who he was. In fact, throughout the duration of the party, nobody actually saw the kid, and he only made an appearance in that picture. Number 11 is the last image of Chris McCandles. Chris McCandles was a hitchhiker who spent a significant amount of time in Alaska. He traveled the Stampede Trail and lived in a bus for over 100 days. Although he had minimal equipment and a slight lack of experience, he managed to survive for quite a long time before eventually getting hungry and lost. He had his own camera that he took photos with on a consistent basis. The last photo he ever took was a picture of him waving, grinning, and holding up a sign of some sort. It's almost impossible to make out what the sign says through the picture, but the original sign was found and it said, "I have had a happy life and thank the Lord. Goodbye, and may God bless all." He was later found dead in his tent on September 6, 1992. The Oscar-nominated film Into the Wild was based on his life story. Number 12 is the Hiroshima Shadows. The United States Army Air Force dropped an atomic bomb on the Japanese city Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. It wiped out a large fraction of the population and 70% of the city's buildings were completely destroyed. The explosion was so strong that some of the victims left behind a shadow that etched into some of the city's stone. It was a horrifying sight, but one that was used as a constant reminder for the horrifying fate that Hiroshima had been given. Number 13 is the party that shouldn't have happened. This is an image of two friends at a party that seems relatively normal. However, it really isn't, trust me. You see, the boy on the right is Tyler Hadley, and he actually killed his parents a few hours before throwing this house party. He told one of his friends what he had done, and that friend tipped the police off, who came and arrested him. 16 is the final autograph. This is a picture of legendary music icon and former Beatles member John Lennon signing an autograph for a fan. While it seems ordinary enough, this picture has a disturbing twist because the person he's signing a picture for is the person that killed him 6 hours after this photo was taken. Mark David Chapman shot Lennon in the back of the head 4 times outside of his apartment. Chapman was a massive fan of Lennon, but was also a Christian. So when John Lennon said that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, Chapman took his anger out by killing him. Number 17 is the murder of Travis Alexander. Travis Alexander and his ex-girlfriend Jodi Arias were fooling around in Alexander's house. Arias took a series of photos throughout the event, and one of these images was much more significant than the rest, an image of Travis Alexander in the shower. This is because right after this photo was taken, Jodi Arias shot and killed Travis Alexander. Number 18 is the Photobomber. A politician from the Philippines was taking a picture of his family on New Year's Day 2011. However, on the far left of the picture we can see a man holding a gun. This man was not supposed to be in the image at all, and was actually there to assassinate the politician. Number 19 is the Kidnapping. In 1989, 19-year-old Tara Calico went missing from New Mexico. She hasn't been found since, but evidence that she was kidnapped may have popped up. A woman was walking through a parking lot when she found this Polaroid image. It shows two people tied up in the back of a car. One of them resembles Calico, the other is a younger boy who is yet to be identified. This image added a layer of mystery to the case, as it was unclear why the kidnapper would take the photo in the first place and then also leave it in a car park. Regardless, neither of the two have been found. Number 20 is the last photo of Regina Walters. Robert Rhodes is a serial killer who is believed to have killed over 50 women. One of these was Regina Walters, who he killed in an abandoned barn in Illinois. Right before he killed her, he took this image, which hauntingly shows 14-year-old Regina Walters' last moments alive. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, please hit that like button. Also, if you want more videos similar to this one, don't forget to subscribe. But that's it for now. As always, until next time.